We're talking about a book called The Covenant that is an absolute must-read. It is a lost portion of history in America that is absolutely, positively true. Timothy Ballard is the author. I want to, first, before we go to what we have to do, I want you to take me through 1775, Boston, what happened, triple miracle.
The triple miracle. A pattern was set. We've talked about the pattern in 1776, the invocation of the covenant. But this was actually happening before Bunker Hill. They were issuing, Washington and the Congress were issuing pleas to the nation to beg forgiveness, to turn to God. Washington lands in Boston. Bunker Hill had already happened, and he's rearing to go. What's going on is that the British have seized the city, and Washington and his men are on the outskirts across the Charles River, and Washington wants to get in there. By the spring, or thereafter, a little after, in the springtime, March, the British pick up and take off before there can be a battle. Washington walks into the city, and he's upset. He wanted to take them on. He walks in, and he has this moment. He says, we would have been crushed. The city's fortified beyond anything we could have done. It would have been over. The miracle here is that God kicked him out of Boston. It was a triple miracle. First, and rewind before Washington gets into the city, the portly Knox, bookseller and general extraordinaire, knew the covenant, read the scriptures with his men. Washington sent him on an impossible journey. 300 miles, go seize the guns of Fort Ticonderoga and bring them back here, because we have no guns. And in the meantime, Washington's figuring out a plan. How am I going to attack and get the Boston back? Dorchester Heights, south of Boston, it's the high ground, the only high ground besides Bunker Hill, which they had lost. Washington says, let's take it. Well, the British know it's there, and they're saying, if they move on that thing, attack, because that's the only place they can even have a chance at us. Washington tells his commanders, we're taking the heights. They say, you're crazy. Again, we're moving. He moves them. Just before he's about to go, Henry Knox shows up with a cannon. Okay, then, talk about a providential fog. The night he's going on to take the heights, a fog drops down. And this is their words, not mine. A fog drops down so the British can't see anything down below. They get the cannon all the way to the top of the mountain, to the heights. And it's a beautiful, clear night above the clouds. They can't believe it. They're saying, God's doing this for us. In the morning, the British look up there, and they say, one of the commanders, hilarious, he says, I think Washington must have found Aladdin's wonderful lamp. What just happened? Now Washington thinks we're going to take them. We're going to get them. Howe, the general on the British side, kind of freaks out and says, we got to go now. Let's attack. He gets his men all ready. They get in the boats to cross the river. The hurricane. Miracle number 3. The hurricane hits, pushes them back, destroys their plans, and really, Howe gets scared. He's like, I'm out of here. I am out of here. And that's when Washington comes in, and he's kind of ticked still because he wanted to fight. And that's when he says, look what God just did. That Sabbath, he goes to a church before heading out of New England. He goes to a church and hears the sermon. And the sermon identifies this cause as Israel's cause. He quotes, the pastor quotes in Exodus, and he says, when God fights for Israel, Israel wins.
Okay, how true that is. Let me go now quickly to the scene on the front cover of your book. Here it is. This is Washington taking the oath.
Yes.
Tell me what he's got his hand on the Bible.
Yes.
He ad-libs, so help me God.
Yes.
What's the scripture?
The scripture. Now, the scripture, to get the full context, you really have to read, because it's deep and it's profound. It's from Genesis 49. People say that the Bible doesn't talk about America. The Bible doesn't have anything to do with America. I take issue with that. I believe it does, and I believe Washington knew it did. Washington had his hand in a scripture that most people wouldn't even recognize. It is profound. It's the key to unlocking the prophecies about America. I believe the ancients did see America, and I believe I have proof of it.
And that's in the book?
It's in the book.
Okay. Explain World War II. How did we, I mean, I guess the people were good, but I don't think FDR was making covenants with God.
But the question is, who sealed the deal? Who was the president when we achieved our victory? That's significant. There's a covenant maker in Harry Truman.
Harry Truman knew. He read his scriptures. He was just a brilliant man and a God-fearing man.
Yes.
And if it wasn't for Harry Truman, Israel wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
And all the gates of hell opened up against Harry Truman to establish to Israel. We are moving away. We're moving in the wrong direction now. How long have we been doing that, do you think?
I think it's been a constant battle. But I think in the last, maybe decade or so, we've been going further and further away.
All right. So let me go to the end here, where you say there are certain things that we have to do, a charge to keep, living the covenant today. You just go over. The first one is keep the commandments and serve the God of the land.
Right.
Pretty easy.
It's pretty pretty
simple.
to God.
Next one. Promote separation of church and state, not separation of God and state.
Yes, what a concept that we just have lost. Our secular jurists have completely forgotten. There's a difference between separation of church and state and the separation of God and state. Separation of church and state means we don't want any religion supporting or hurting or meddling with any particular denomination, any set of beliefs. But that's not to say that God is to be taken out of this. Religion doesn't equal God in the sense of the First Amendment. And the founders knew it. They're the ones that wrote the amendment in the first place, and they welcomed God at every opportunity.
I think it was also that get government out of the church. Leave the church alone. Leave it alone.
Exactly.
Participate in government.
Yeah, we need to pay attention. I mean, yeah.
Don't legislate immorality.
Right.
I always hear it the other way. You can't legislate morality.
And I agree with that too. We cannot. I wouldn't legislate morality because we need to keep freedom alive. You don't want to start telling people you have to do this. It has to be your choice. But the flip side of the coin, you don't legislate immorality. You can't slap our national seal on something that is immoral behavior. You live and let live, but you can't say we're going to promote and sponsor this. How does God look at that, looking down at us?
What is be slow to political wrath? That's step number 5.
That has to do with the idea that we as a nation pick at each other as if it's some sports contest. Republican versus Democrat, and we get we're not worried about truth anymore. We get so angry that we're not even worried about finding the truth. We're just worried about looking like we're right.
See, because I have to tell you, I mean, because we do a lot of research on the show, and we struggle because we get really pissed off because nobody's looking at the truth. I got pissed off with George W. Bush. I was called on the carpet in the Oval Office because I spoke the truth. The same thing with Barack Obama.
Yes.
And we have to stay away from political wrath, but that doesn't mean that we stop speaking the truth.
No. And I say in that very section, righteous indignation. That's not what I'm talking about. We can have that. We should have that. We need to scream out and call, as long as we're looking for the truth.
Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. One of my favorite scriptures.
Yes.
Meaning?
People, again, go back to Israel, because it's just being replayed again. The children of Israel were scared. A lot of them, if you read the account, they left slavery. Some of them wanted to go back because they realized something. With freedom comes responsibility. Mm-hmm. We have, freedom from slavery is slavery to goodness. Martin Luther King said that, and he understood these principles. And what's happening now is people are scared. Instead of putting their faith in God, I mean, you talk about this all the time, they're putting their faith in Pharaoh. Mm-hmm. They're putting their faith in the state. Take us, feed us, do everything for us. God's saying, turn to me. I will make it happen. Fear not. I will make it happen for you. The state's not. They'll take you by the hand, but they're going to lead you in the wrong direction.
Deliver the Bible, number 7.
The Bible is our roadmap. The founders said we're the new Israel. The Pilgrims said it. The revolutionaries said it. We're the new Israel. So the roadmap is in the Old Testament. That tells the Old Testament largely is the national covenant. That's what it is. The New Testament talks more about your personal covenants in your personal faith and your relationship with Christ. But the Old Testament is largely the national covenant. It's our story, which is why the Founding Fathers quoted more out of the Old Testament than any other book. And I'm talking non-religious books.
Oh, I know.
It's from,
33% more
right.
than anything else.
It was their inspiration because they were invoking the same covenant.
And this is the last one, and what do you mean by take the blessings to every nation?
That means we stand for these for constitutional principles. God gave us this land. He gave us the power. We must take a stand. We don't turn our backs on the oppressed. I'm in a job where I'm lucky to see the United States going out into a foreign country and finding children who are being abused in the worst way. And I get to be part of helping bring the power of the United States to liberate them. And I don't like to see stories where we forsake people overseas who are good people trying to do good things.
This is an important book. It is an important story that you're not going to get anyplace else. You're not going to get the story of the covenant. Nobody even speaks in these terms anymore, but I am telling you, I know it to be true. I know it to be true that we would not have been able to beat the British. We wouldn't have been able to conquer slavery and save the Union. We wouldn't have been able to win the Second World War. Israel wouldn't have been established. We wouldn't have been the people to do any of this stuff had we not made a covenant with God.